Hey horse, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I hope y'all having a lovely, marvelous, and spectacular day, because the only things that matter here are you, me, your nuts, and the fact that none of the other shit matters anyway, so we might as well have fun. I hope y'all are doing great today. I'm having a kind of crazy week in Pride Month, but we're here, we're queer, we're also black. It was just Juneteenth. My afro is back. It's grown, but shrinkage is real. So yeah, I don't know if y'all can tell, but we're here, we're in this thing. And today I thought that I would do something very gay and pride friendly. So if you don't know, I am a youth advocate, youth advisor, youth coordinator. I work a lot with youth. That's one of my many passions, along with the arts. And I have been working with youth since I stopped being a youth, pretty much, like straight into college. I was still coming home to work with my program that I grew up in. So yeah, so if you've been here, you know. If not, y'all can go to my first vlog, I believe. I think I talked a little bit about my students in there. But yeah, so because of all of my educator training, I've become really passionate about sexual education in schools. And yeah, it's stressful out here, at least in America. I know that it's even more so an issue in other countries, but it's always really bothered me the way that it's handled in America, and the way that we scrutinize young people when we are seeing elevation in teen pregnancies and so on and so forth. And we're gonna get into all that and why I'm passionate about it and why it stresses me out that America does not have their shit together. But this is queer friendly sex ed, and obviously it's not just for young people. I feel like because America has done such a shitty job at just covering all the bases, you know, people my age, older in general, might need it. I also felt like this was important during Pride Month because there are things that, as queer folks, it's even harder for us to access the education and knowledge about safe sex for us. And so I figured we cover everything here. We're gonna cover consent, how you ask the questions, STD testing, protection, all the things. We're gonna go over all the things. So get ready, girl. It's happening right now. Let's go. Yeah. What? I'm in your city, signing biddies yitty. Okay. My pussy pretty, snatch your bitch quickly. Your girl friendly, don't call her no hoe. Keep her from around me, I might suck her toe. Come here. Pound town, just left Pound town. Smoking. With your nigga, we just blew a zip down. Woo! Okay, so first we're going to jump into the history. So obviously there isn't much, hence my ramble in the beginning. Because basically the history of sex ed is nothing and no one ever getting on the same page. There is currently no comprehensive, all-encompassing standard for sexual education in America. And I don't, like I said in the beginning, I'm not 100% sure about the specifications in other countries. I'm sorry, y'all. If y'all are new here, I have a septum ring and I used to have a lip ring, and I feel like either one or both of them gave me a lisp. Like, and this is neither here nor there, but I knew that there was like a risk of like nerve damage or whatever with my tongue ring because I got snake eyes. But honestly, I would get it back. Like, I want frog eyes so that it's like a smaller ring. This is so like I mean, like, you know, the gays love a piercing. But anyway, this is so not relevant. So just in case y'all hear me fucking up on words and going back, that was the whole point of that. But yeah, so basically the history of sex education, at least for the United States, is that no one has ever been able to get on the same page, but everyone likes to blame the youth for teen pregnancy rates whenever they spike. um, excuse me, as well as, you know, the different things that are going on with increased and targeted sexual violence in the country and in the world. All kinds of excuses for that, and like why no one has a definition, or why there is no general definition of consent, which we will get to. So yeah, the history is kind of lackluster. There's more so history of the there's more so history of people rejecting the idea that there should be sexual education. Like there's always been you know, this idea of fear mongering, at least that goes on in Catholic school, which I have a personal experience with. I literally was in religion class in Catholic school, and I was traumatized because instead of talking about sex, they showed us like diagrams, like official medical diagrams of abortions. Like that is the only thing that I remember from that conversation. And I just remember being traumatized. I was 12 years old. It was a mess. There was no reason why, like, that didn't make me not have sex when I felt like it. Like, it just made me sad and upset. So yeah, so there's more so a history of like, you know, religion and I guess Republicans kind of pushing away from sex and sex ed being taught in schools. I know that a lot of times in the whatever is below, I think it's whatever is below the Mason-Dixon line. I think that's how we like classify the South. I don't know. But I know in the southern states, they are mainly and have been rooting for teaching abstinence, which is absolutely insane to me, because I just feel like at any point in life, like no matter if you're my age, if you're younger, if you're older, you know that teenagers are going to have sex. Most of them are going to have sex. Like you get to a certain age, you're really horny, you want to have sex. So yeah, that's kind of like the overall history. Southerners are angry and prudish, which we know. And, you know, the North hasn't really gotten it together enough for it to be cohesive. Like I said, there is so much of a difference that you can get from state to state. Like Texas could be like, no, don't have sex, don't touch each other, you'll die. And then California could be like, actually, this is what you can do if you want to protect yourself and have safe sex. And then New York can be like, yeah, we're not going to talk about it. We don't even have funding for that type of health teacher with that certification. So basically, this whole history and me learning about all of this when I was a youth in high school, even before I was having sex, I used to be so mad. And like that's one of the reasons why I'm like, I know this is something that I've been passionate about since I was younger, because it's like literally part of biology. And I feel like there's always this thin line between like what school / after school programs and like extracurriculars are supposed to teach kids and what parents are supposed to teach them. And I feel like this is one of those things that's in the middle of the line, but also there's no reason why we can't make a comprehensive like standard like we do for everything the fuck else. Like, why the fuck can we agree to teach bullshit versions of history in America where it's like slavery and then white people discovered everything? Why can we teach that but we can't teach sex ed? Why don't the kids know what consent is before they leave high school? It's beyond me. But anyway, let's get into the science. So when we're talking about the science, first of all, let's just get out of the way. Sex can be sex, the physical act, obviously, and then sex, how you are biologically classified by doctors and the medical field. Usually, like when you go to the doctor, if you go to the hospital, whatever, they will classify you as male or female. And usually when people want to talk about sex, the physical acts, the biological classification comes into it. So obviously this is queer inclusive, queer friendly sex ed, so we have to talk about that. And basically, if you're following me, if you're not following me, we're all the way queer over here. We're not bigoted queers. So yeah, gender is a social construct, just so you know. In case you didn't know, now you know. If you know, you know. Basically, a long time ago, white people got real upset that the whole universe didn't want to be Christians, and they felt like you know, the good Christian word says that gay people are bad, and you know, homosexual sex is bad. But I just want y'all to know that, at least as far as people go back, from what I know, people been gay. People be gay. Quinta Brunson, like, I don't, there's more so evidence via art, via, literally I'm talking about cave drawings, like in the pyramids, in ancient texts, there is images and depictions of homosexual sex. So it's not like this terrible thing that people make it out to be. And it's more so like, this is where kind of the science and the history tie into each other, because it's really politics that have gotten into a place of really policing bodies and having us police each other's bodies, because the main thing is that we're safe with each other. People gonna fuck who they wanna fuck, people gonna love who they wanna love. So yeah, so I just wanted to get that out of the way. There's different meanings of sex, and there's different ways to look at sex, and we're going to cover as much as possible. But yeah, like, look up the Kama Sutra. Like, people have been sticking things wherever they could find a place to stick it since forever and a day. So yeah, and with that being said, gender being a social construct, we are going to try not to use gendered terms, especially for our biological parts, because we know that could be triggering and stressful. I'm gonna try to keep it, you know, very genderless as I speak. And yeah, we'll go into like the acts scientific part. But yeah, I just wanted to get that out of the way first. It's me editing and realizing that I didn't really mention science at all, because I went on a rant about politics. But the science of sex is, if you put a penis in a vagina and it ejaculates in there, or pre-comes in there, you can have a baby. Boom, that's the science. Sorry that it's all random and blurry like this, but that is the science. Otherwise, have fun safely. Now that we covered that gender is a social construct, we are going to be freeing gender from this conversation and just talking about people, how people get together, get along. And the first thing, before we even cover the parts and what you do with them, right, we have to talk about consent. That is the first thing. So the definition of consent, I wrote it down because, listen, we're finna get it together. We're finna get it all the way together, okay? This Pride Month, thank you. So the definition of consent that I found online is willing, positive cooperation in an act or the expression of a desire to engage in an activity. So when we're talking about sex, this is a obvious, positive, continual, yes, affirming, you know, that kind of thing. Obviously, we can go into like what that looks like, and how you can kind of communicate that through the topic. But first, I want y'all to click the link click the link to the T video. If you haven't seen the T video, this to me is the best tool that I have ever seen to talk about consent. So pause this video, go watch the T video if you haven't seen it already, and that's just that. Then we're gonna get into examples. So now that you watched the T video and you have the basic knowledge of consent in an active situation, some examples that I like to give my students when we talk about consent and sexual education are: do you like that? Do you like this? Do you? I don't know if y'all can hear that, but we just gonna hope that it's fireworks at this unreasonable hour. So some examples of different things that you can ask or inquire when it comes to consent are: do you like this or do you like that? Does this feel good? Do you want me to keep going? Do you want me to stop? Are you comfortable? Basically just making sure that you are being respectful of your sexual partner at all times and just checking in with them. And I know that it can sound easier than it may be if you might just be starting to have sex, or just be starting to have sex on your queer journey if you have just recently come out or just recently started having sex in the queer community. It can be hard sometimes to bring up certain things and to ask certain questions, but I like to just give basic examples like: are you comfortable? How are you feeling? Just so that kind of idea of respect is there from the gate, like from the jump, because we want to make sure that everyone is comfortable and everyone's having a good time, and that we are maintaining a safe environment and a mindful environment, right? Because we don't know what kind of potentially triggers or trauma that folks have. Another good idea in general to go by, if just when starting to have sex with a new partner, or if you are just starting to have sex, another thing is coming up with a safe word. I feel like people often think that safe words have to be like if you're into BDSM or the kink community, anything that is not typical or not vanilla sex. And that's not necessarily true, right? You can always come up with a safe word. And for me personally, I prefer to come up with safe words just because I have experienced trauma. Like, oop, child, I almost knocked the hell out of y'all. But yeah, I've experienced trauma, so I like to come up with safe words with my partner just in case I end up in like a traumatized space and I can only, come out with the one word. So those are some examples. Now we are going to head into the nitty-gritty of it all. First, we're going to start off with protection from STDs and STIs and what that can look like with pictures. Because y'all, listen, one thing I learned being a educator through virtual times, listen, it's not gonna be a PowerPoint. I told y'all I wasn't gonna do that to y'all, but with pictures, because we need y'all to know what everything looks like and how you do the thing. Excuse me. So basically, if you are having sexual relations with someone with a vagina, there are if you're having sex with someone with a vagina, there are 3 ways to protect yourselves from STDs and STIs. So the first one is a dental dam. And basically what a dental dam is, it's like a little sheet. The first time I saw one, I was at Pride. I was like 16. I had never seen that shit before in my life. And then like I feel like the next week or something, either like the next week I had a class about it at my after school program, or like right before that they had told us about it, and then I saw one in real life and I was like, oh shit. Anyway, it's a little sheet. It looks like a little blanket. It's like a little coochie blanket. And that's what's to protect you from STIs and STDs when you're giving or receiving oral sex. And if you have or you are pleasuring a vagina. So yeah, you can also cut up a penile condom to turn it into a dental dam. And when we talk about penile condoms, it'll make more sense if you are unfamiliar, but they're basically shaped like the shaft of a penis, and if you were to cut right up along the side of it, you will be able to open it and it will be like a sheet, just like a dental dam. So speaking of penile condoms, that is another way that you can protect yourself if you're having sex with someone with a vagina. You can, and if you are having sex with someone with a vagina and you have a penis, and you want to have vaginal sex, which is inserting a penis or other things into a vagina. If you have a penis, you can use a penile condom, which like I said is shaped like the shafts. There will be pictures. And basically you kind of dang, I feel like a bad teacher because I don't have like a banana and a condom like right at my disposal. But basically, first things first, if you're using a penile condom for any reason, check the expiration date. That's the first thing you do. The second thing you do is open it without puncturing it. If you have sharp nails, if you have don't use your teeth, just do your best to open it very gently. Once you open it, it'll be about like that big usually. It's usually some type of latex, unless you're allergic to latex, in which you would use sheepskin condoms, I believe, or latex free condoms. And it'll be like a little circle. Usually you want to like blow air into it so that you can see which way it's supposed to go, because the tip will kind of like pop out, and then you put it on top of the penis and roll it down the shafts all the way. And you want to leave space for when you or when your partner, if you're putting on the condom for your partner, ejaculates, so that it doesn't just break, right? Okay, boom. Next, we're going into, I'm trying so hard not to look at my notes. Next, we're going into, oh yes, vaginal condoms. So if you are having sex with someone who has a vagina and you want to protect yourself from STDs and STIs, you can use a vaginal condom, and it's basically the same thing as a penile condom, except you are inserting it into the vagina and there's a little plastic ring inside of it. It's also much bigger than a penile condom, and you insert the condom itself with the little plastic ring that's inside of it into the vagina, and then it kind of opens up over your cervix to protect you from, like I said, STDs and STIs, as well as getting pregnant. Penile condoms also protect you from getting pregnant. Like I said, penile condoms and vaginal condoms both have there's usually a range between about 95 to 99% accuracy when it comes to protecting you from pregnancy. But all condoms, I believe, except I think sheepskin or certain ones that are made for people that are allergic to latex, can have some issues with protecting from STDs and STIs as well as they do for pregnancy. So if you are allergic to latex, definitely look into that and make sure that you are either pairing pairing condom usage with some type of other form of birth control if you are trying not to get pregnant and you are having penile and vaginal sex. So obviously, or maybe not obviously, but if you're having penile and anal sex, there is no possibility of getting pregnant. But you still want to be able to protect yourself, hence condoms. Really quick before I go into kind of the acts and how all the pieces get put together, I want to talk about birth control. So typically if you have a vagina, you at some point will be talking to a doctor or healthcare professional about birth control, which is usually some type of hormone altering chemical situation. So there's the pill, the patch, the shots, and IUDs. They're all different forms of like a hormonal additive to make sure that the person with the vagina, their body is kind of tricked into thinking that either they've already released an egg in their body or that there's no need to release an egg. It's basically making your body an inhabitable place for a baby. It keeps uterine lining thin and basically just like pumping your body full of hormones, right? To kind of trick it into not making babies. So there's a whole bunch of different reasons why people get on birth control. I first started birth control because I had an ovarian cyst. I wasn't even having sex, but I started the pill. I believe I was 16 or 17. I also had a friend when I was in high school that was put on birth control at like 9 because she had an early period. And I just wanted to go over this really quickly because I feel like a lot of times folks that have wombs and vaginas are kind of pressured into this idea that birth control will solve all of our problems and we won't have to worry about, pregnancy until we want to worry about pregnancy. But there's actually a lot of harmful things that can come from birth control. I had a friend when I was in high school as well that was on the shot, and she told me that she was just like bleeding for months. Like she just had a nonstop period. Because the different hormones can have different effects on our bodies. There's no one way that it will affect you. And I also ended up, while I was going through my I call it my depression year in college, I felt like my birth control was making me even more depressed, which my OBGYN said that there was no science or numbers behind that, I guess, as if I wasn't sitting there trying to explain it to her. But yeah, there's a lot of things where, healthcare professionals will just kind of like gaslight you into believing like this is the end all be all, or like this is the one solve, the one, what am I trying to say? The quick fix, or the one size fits all answer, right? But a lot of times it can really mess some of us up, make us feel pretty sick, alter our periods to very unpredictable, patterns. And so I just wanted to make sure that y'all are mindful of that. And yeah, so if you are having sex and you could potentially get pregnant and you don't want to, just keep in mind that the different birth control that is out there for folks who have wombs and vaginas it can be a lot. So definitely do your research. I'm not even sure which one is maybe like the least stressful on the body. I would think that the mini pill is probably the answer for most folks, but like I said, it's kind of a toss-up when it comes to how it will affect us and our bodies. So I think the mini pill has the least amount of hormones in it, and so it's supposed to have the smallest effect on you. And then there's the regular pill and the patch, the shot, and IUDs. If I had to say, I think IUDs and the shot might have like the biggest, or I've heard the biggest or the most negative effects about. My one friend got an IUD and it got stuck and she had to have surgery to get it out. And so there's just a lot of different complications. So I want y'all to definitely do your own research and make sure that you're communicating with your OBGYN and your healthcare professionals if you're trying to go on some type of birth control, some type of like medicinal birth control, because it can be a lot. So just wanted to get that out there. Now we're heading into the acts and foreplay.